Welcome back to Up in the Blue Seats, your favorite Rangers podcast from the New York Post. As always, I'm your host, Molly Walker, and I am joined by Hall of Famer Larry Brooks and former Ranger Brian Boyle. Happy trade deadline day, guys. We've got plenty of Rangers moves to catch up on, beginning with last weekend when the Rangers sent Ryan Lindgren, Jimmy Vesey, and prospect Hank Kempf in exchange for forward Juuso Parssinen, Calvin DeHaan, a second rounder, and a fourth rounder in this year's draft. The second will be the better of Carolina or the Rangers pick, and the fourth will be the better of Colorado's or Vancouver's. And then the Rangers are also retaining 50% of Lindgren's 4.5 million cap hit in this final year of his contract. So let's start there. We know Lindgren and VC were headed toward unrestricted free agency, and we know that Chris Drury was actively looking to ensure the Rangers got something for those impending UFAs. So Larry, how do you like the return? How do you evaluate the trade?
I thought that um, the assignment was completed. That Drury's assignment was to get value back for the impending free agents who they weren't going to sign again. That was Lindgren, VC, and then Reilly Smith. And I thought that he did a particularly good job on the Lindgren VC deal for jumping the market maybe by a few days. He kind of set the market. He got out about a week ahead, and so he wasn't going to be stuck there trying to sell Ryan Lindgren to a team that had already picked up a defenseman. So I thought he did a good job. I thought this was a utilitarian kind of low key trade deadline for them, where they were looking at um, specific players that they needed to get something back from. They wanted to fortify their D, and they did it in a lowercase way. It's there's a lot of uppercase from the Rangers at the trade deadline, both when they're in contention and when they're purging. This was kind of a middle ground. I think they took care of areas they needed to take care of. They have not been cut off at the knees when they try and make their playoff push now. So I think they were able to inhale and exhale at the same time.
Brian, of the two players that the Rangers got, of the two, which one are you more excited about? What is there to like about those two new guys?
Well, Parsonen for me is just more intriguing because you sort of know what DeHaan is, and that's no disrespect to Calvin DeHaan, but it's not a huge runway for his future in the league. He's played a long time. He's had a hell of a career. It's not easy to do what he's done in the NHL. So if I'm a fan of the Rangers or a fan of the game, and you get a youngish prospect, obviously that's more intriguing. Maybe there's a different role that can unlock something. And I think that whether it was a buyer's market or a seller's market, turned out to clearly be a seller's market today. The fact that, as Larry alluded to, the Drury got ahead of this, I thought his return was tremendous. And you get, who knows what you do with picks, but if you spend some time and the more picks you have, the chances of hitting on a later rounder guy improve. And if you can stockpile some picks, you can move them out at the draft if you want to move up or do whatever. You have equity now. You have, cash in the piggy bank, so to speak, for guys that, again, I like Jimmy VC. He wasn't being used much, especially recently. So you move on from that. It's fine. He's going to go help a team, and a team that has cup aspirations this year and thinks they're close in Colorado while also trying to keep up with the arms race that is in the West. Yeah, that's you sell them, you get maybe a little bit more than you probably could have in any other given year. Now, today was crazy because, a number of different things, with the cap going up, the Rantanen thing. There's 5 or 6 teams that could legitimately win the cup, I think. Rangers are not one of them right now, but that's, is what it is. In my opinion, they could change some things, or if some guys play the way they're capable of, that could change as well, because the Atlantic Division is going to kick the crap out of each other, and so is the Central. So you just stay the course. You make the best deals you can. I thought Chris Drury did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think just a couple of observations from inside the locker room. I mean, Carson comes in before his scrum. He's shaking every single media member's hands before the start of it, which, that doesn't happen always.
Kid was
Definitely
raised
not
right.
all the time. Yeah,
Good
definitely
parents.
not all the time. Very, very sweet. Seemed very grateful to be there. He was confiding a lot in Urho Vaakanainen, another Finn. So he's got that. That's good for him. And the thing about Calvin DeHaan, obviously small sample size, but I agree with you, Brian. You kind of know what you're getting in Calvin DeHaan. But I was impressed with some of the things that he was saying that day on his first day in the locker room. I think that one of the biggest selling points for him was his experience. And I thought that that was very obvious when he was talking to the media for the first time. He said a lot of things about, very candid about evaluating his game, how he knows the kind of player that he is. And at the same time, he was saying how he's not coming in trying to replace anybody, which was almost like a nod to the hint of sadness that was in the air on the Rangers' first day in however many years without Ryan Lindgren in that room. So I think it was a really nice thing of him to say and kind of acknowledge. And I thought it spoke a lot about who Calvin DeHaan is as a player and a person too. So that was an interesting tidbit, I thought, from inside the locker room. Moving on, the next trade we've got is Reilly Smith heading back to Vegas in exchange for a third rounder and prospect Brendan Brisson. The Rangers are also retaining 50% on Smith, but remember that's only 50% of 3.75 million because Vegas retained, oh, not Vegas, Pittsburgh, right? Retained 25% of his original 5 million cap hit this past summer. And then the Rangers, they flipped that third rounder to Vancouver to acquire 6'5" defenseman Carson Soucy. So, I mean, in just the couple of conversations I've had with Reilly Smith about Vegas, I'm confident to say that he's very happy at this move. He really enjoyed his time in Vegas. He didn't expect it to go as well as it did. And he told me that, he thought his career was over when he first got there and obviously ends up winning a cup. So for Reilly Smith, this is so great. So it's basically the Rangers got Carson Soucy out of it. I mean, Brian, what's to like about Soucy in your opinion?
Well, he's big, strong, mean right shot. Shoot it hard. They don't have enough of that in the backside, and that's a great pickup in my opinion. I think that was a great get for the Rangers. They've been lacking that. He gave up a little physicality, losing Ryan Lindgren, albeit he's small-ish. He could still pack a punch if he times it up right, but just the leaning on guys, and it doesn't exert as much energy when Soucy has to push somebody around, or he's not going to wow you, but if he plays a simple game, like we've said it all year, there's enough talent. There's just the structure goes haywire sometimes, and they don't know where they're going. It looks disjointed a lot. This is a guy that exactly what he's going to do, and that's the simplicity of him, the simplicity of a Will Borgen doing the things that he does well, staying in that lane. These are things that clean up and organize your defense, your defensive zone, and the forwards. It's up to them to play off of them.
Yeah, and Soucy's somebody who the Rangers have been interested in for a number of years. I think even going back to the Jeff Gordon administration, I think they liked him then. I think they've liked him. He's been a free agent a couple of times. He's been traded. So they've always been interested in Carson Soucy. Well, it gives them a couple of options too. It gives Laviolette a couple of options too, because Soucy played with Borgen for a bit in Seattle. They had about like 600 minutes at 5-on-5. So, they've had some experience together. So it's possible that when Adam Fox comes back, that Adam could play with K'Andre Miller, which how they started the season. One of their best, actually, they analytically, their pair ranked at the top of the league. Yep. Goals for, expected goals for. So they could do that. They could keep K'Andre with Will Borgen, and maybe take a look at Soucy with Adam. I don't know that Carson Soucy's ever played top minutes though in the league, so that would be an adjustment for him. But it would also be the first time Adam's playing with a big, legit big defense.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of options. What I wonder does tomorrow in Ottawa, does Soucy kick Jones out of the lineup again?
That was literally my next question is, do we think that that's what happens? Part of me feels like it is, especially just because I think it's kind of out there at this point that both Jones and the Rangers are looking to move on from this relationship.
He's played well, hasn't he?
Well, he has.
Jones? Of course he has, but it's kind of like, who else comes out?
Is he taking, are they taking DeHaan out? Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. The other part is that
this is with Fox out.
Right, this is with Fox out.
Yeah, so you need a little bit of a puck mover, no?
But okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. It's okay with me. I'm just saying that and I'm not blaming Zach Jones, but their power play has never looked worse than it has the last couple of games, where honestly they've not practiced much. It's just
there's been a lot of movement too.
Chaotic, and if Kreider comes back in, that changes the power play. In the first place, when Kreider comes back in, assuming he's coming back in reasonable time, and I think he is. So that changes the power play, but the way they've had it, like last couple of games, has just been, it's been abysmal. So if they're making a change there, and if they're making a change with Zach Jones, then maybe he's coming out. I don't know. I mean, it was interesting to me though. Here's the thing: Zach Jones wasn't good enough for Laviolette to play for 2 months when everyone was healthy. He wasn't good enough, right? Mm-hmm. So Adam Fox goes down. Keandre Miller has been on the second power play all year. Keandre and Adam Fox goes down. Keandre doesn't get a shot at the first power play. Zach Jones, who wasn't good enough to play in a game, gets the first power play. So
showcase.
Kind of like I don't know.
It's a showcase. That's what it is, don't you think?
Well, the showcase didn't go anywhere.
No, it didn't. But don't you think that is perhaps part of it? That was at least my thinking, because I agree with you. It's such a 0 to 100.
I don't know.
Just like Kakko going from healthy scratch in Finland to the top line.
It was like when Marcel Hossa was on the Rangers. He was either scratched or he was playing on the first line with Yager. That was it. He was either scratched or he was playing first line minutes. And the same thing, they got Brad Isbister too. And it was the same thing. Isbister was scratched like 12 games in a row, and then he'd play up with Yogs.
They fill a certain role. And I think, just the breakouts. I've liked Jones's game. It's not perfect.
I think he's played great.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but there's a lot of warts on some of the other, there's parts of different players' games. And wherever coach's job is to put you in a position to succeed. What's he supposed to be doing? What's his comfortability level? Is he going to shut it down up a goal late? Probably not. But, he needs offense from the back end. That's what the league is now. I don't know. It's a monster game tomorrow.
It is.
Monster.
Huge. But the whole weekend. Columbus the following night. It's a big weekend for the Rangers. All right, moving on. The Rangers also signed Urho Vaakanainen today, 2-year extension with an average annual value of $1.55 million. Larry, is Vaakanainen a guy the Rangers should have committed to in the short term like this? I mean, they certainly need it for some stability in numbers the next couple of years.
Well, I think at that number, you can't lose, honestly.
Yeah.
You always need depth players.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he's in their top 6 next year, whether he's the 7th. I mean, he's an NHL player, and at 1.55, if you have a chance to lock, if you have a if you have the chance to lock up a player who can play in the top 6 for 1.55, I'm doing it. I'm not, I'm not letting the guy get out of the room before he signs that deal.
Yeah, it's just minutes. The more guys you can trust to put over the boards without a tire fire going on, the better. And the cheaper you can get them, the better. And if God forbid something terrible doesn't work out and he loses his game or whatever, that's an easy one to move.
Yeah, he's been solid. I think he's been solid for them. And then just to cap off the day, the Rangers also got Abe Kubel. Abe Kubel in exchange for Eric Brandstrom, who, let's not forget, was acquired with JT Miller from Vancouver. So that's another deal.
Did he get a video tribute?
Yeah, he got a slide.
But that's another deal where a piece was acquired and then flipped. So that's obviously pretty good work for Drury, but that was more of an AHL level trade, and he will report to Hartford. So that about puts a bow on the Rangers trade deadline week. So nothing crazy, but also, not doing nothing either. So, which is about what we expected from them, just because of the situation that they were in, obviously looking to get things for their unrestricted free agents and, but at the same time, not sacrificing their competitiveness going into this final 20-game stretch.
Right.
Obviously, this season as a whole has been a bit of a retool for the Rangers, thinking of everything the Rangers have done and how they've looked in their last month and change. They've gone 7-4-1 since February 1st. My question to you guys is, can the Rangers make the playoffs now?
Yep. Absolutely. I think that they're playing a better brand of hockey, right? Like that's and they're a proud team. It's not, I mean, it was as bad as it could have. They were at one point for a good 3 weeks, maybe more, the worst team in the league and how they were playing, the product on the ice. And they've remedied that. They've come out of that and played a better brand of hockey, not all the time, but a lot of the time. And big part of that's the JT Miller trade. You're seeing more from Mika. His legs are moving more now. Kreider's been dealing with whatever he's been dealing with, but he's shown stretches where he's had his legs back prior to the Four Nations and a little bit after. I think JT Miller, it can't be understated what he's done. He demands it. He's given a bigger voice to Troach because now it's not just one guy, it's two guys. And probably reminded some of these stud players who they are. And if you can get more out of 13 and 10 up to their capabilities, who's to say they can't? Because, I mean, Detroit doesn't look like they really want it that bad. They go on these swings. Ottawa's the same. So you can just kind of chip away at, win 3 or 4 and lose 1 and get into overtime, the fifth game. I think they're in.
Yeah. Listen, again, they're chasing very flawed teams.
Yeah.
I think, but what they require though is Shesterkin to be at his best.
For sure.
For sure. I mean, they can't have another one of his 2-week walkabouts. They just can't have another one. He's had a couple of stretches. He's had 2 this year. And so they can't afford another one. They're going to need him to be at his best. I don't know if he'll play against Ottawa or if he'll play against Columbus, but they'll need it. Probably he'll play Saturday, I guess, in Ottawa. They'll need him and they'll need quick. They're going to have to play well in order to make it. But if they play well, there's no reason why they shouldn't make it. And we've been looking as a group at just these 2 wild card spots that are open, but third place in the Metro now is up for grabs too. I mean, the Devils have just had this horrible news, honestly.
Yeah,
so they're right there for the taking, right? So there aren't 2 spots open now. There are 3. So there are either, you want to say 6 or 7 teams looking for those 3. there's no reason why the Rangers shouldn't be able to emerge as one of these playoff teams. But they're going to need to play well. They're going to need to play well. They're going to need, if Kreider comes, when Kreider comes back, they're going to need him to produce. They're going to need a lot more from Lafreniere. Their defensive structure has to be as strong as it's been the last week or so, where they were very good against Washington after being good against the Islanders and Nashville, who aren't, particularly good teams. Washington was the highest scoring team in the league, and the Rangers, I thought, played them really well. But that's also a point that they need to get. They've lost a lot of games to big time teams this year. They've just come up short. And so that needs to flip a little bit too.
If they get hot and catch Jersey, I am not scared of Carolina at all. They have regressed.
Well, Carolina now is probably a psychological disaster right now.
They're not happy. Those players are not happy.
Right.
Yeah. How could you be?
Well, I mean, Tulski got on. Can't say without laughing. I was live on television today laughing because of his quote. Right. And Rupper was coming on and talking about, like, that's your job. He said he ran out of time basically because the rant.
He ran out of time.
And the deal reportedly, not officially, but reportedly he turned down from Toronto. Like, I mean, Minton and Easton Cowan and 2 firsts. I'm like, buddy. But, he got Rantanen out of the East, which is just, if you can get through, who the hell knows? Because, I mean, the Atlantic is a gauntlet. The Central is a gauntlet. So if those teams, by the 3rd round, they're going to be licking their wounds.
Right. Let's try and have the Rangers beat Ottawa and
Columbus. Right. But if they get Larry, how far are they from Jersey? Jersey doesn't look great. Carolina does not look good. I watched them play. They got lucky, like the most luck I've ever seen in a hockey game, to beat the Boston Bruins last night. Like twice, the second goal and the third goal. It was like, well, listen, we're talking to the fans here. Like, a lot of different things could happen. They could not make it, but if they play like they could, 80% of what they're capable of, you're back to, cups back on. Let's go.
They're also, after having like the last couple, even like the last month or so, where so much was predicated on how the teams around them were performing, a lot of those results really fell in their way. And now they're playing 5 of the teams that they're battling for this wild card spot or whatever, or for playoff position. Columbus twice, so they have a little bit of, have their own faith in their hands, like they have some big games coming up down the stretch that they are going to have to capitalize on to make themselves feel a little bit more comfortable going for a playoff spot.
Columbus is going to be tough. That's a good team. That's a good story. That's a good team.
Yeah.
But the other ones, it's almost like I'm more scared of Columbus than I would be of, a lot.
They play the Devils again one more time, I think. Play the Islanders again. So it's the playoff fight of their lives. But I'm in complete agreement with you guys. There's no reason why they shouldn't be able to make it. They've made up a lot of ground. They have not made it easy for themselves on this season, but they went from the basement in the Metropolitan Division to knocking on the playoff line door. So that's about all you could ask for in terms of a rebound, because like you said, Brian, for a pretty long moment there, they were the worst team in the National Hockey League after being the best team in the league last season.
At one point in the last couple of days, they were in. They were in the second round.
Yes, they're right there. It's right there for the taking.
You know what I wonder about after today and the Rantanen thing? I wonder if there'll be more focus from the league on the tax states versus the non-tax states. I mean,
Mm.
here was Rantanen. Whatever happened in Colorado happened in Colorado, and they moved on from him really quickly. So
Yes,
it
they
seems
did.
like they knew that he wasn't going to sign, even though he later said, "I don't understand." Well, then he goes to Carolina, and he obviously was not going to sign in Carolina, but he committed 8 years to a team that he's never played for. Right? He's visited the city a few times, in and out. So seriously, was he just looking for a non-tax state to give him?
No, he got 13, almost 14 million from Carolina offered to him. He didn't want to play for Carolina. He didn't want to play that system. He didn't like it. He wasn't comfortable. You could tell that was not
Good
it.
fit.
And he can free roam now. He can do his thing in Dallas. And yeah, I mean, I think you should play in the East if you have the chance to play in the East. Play in the East. More people watch you. You travel a little bit less. North Carolina would be beautiful to play in. I don't think he liked the system. He didn't like the fit. Why would he commit 8 years to that? He got more money, but yeah, the taxes probably offset it all. I don't know tax law that well from North Carolina, but he's, how it was structured was probably all the same or similar. Yeah, he didn't want to play there. And, Toronto's offer was probably good. He probably said, I'm not going to Toronto. That's probably a tax issue there. Maybe not. I don't know what they offered him, but how much could Toronto have really offered him? Unless they were like, see you later, Mitch Marner.
Right.
So
right.
It's interesting. I do think I don't think I know it's certainly an advantage, but it's not like, guys are signing for a little bit less. So you have more to work with, obviously. Yeah.
Makes sense. Turning back to the Rangers, just to wrap this episode up, Chris Kreider could be headed to miss his 7th straight game Saturday in Ottawa, but we won't know for sure. He's obviously been on injured reserve with an upper body injury, which is apparently different than the back spasms he was dealing with earlier this season. It's been kind of a crazy season for him. I mean, beginning with getting named in that infamous jury trade memo in November, and he's just been in the rumor mill ever since. Larry, what is the latest on Kreider in terms of his health, and then what can we expect for Kreider's future with the Rangers?
I think they're expecting him to return soon. But I didn't think he was going to miss 7 games from the way it was kind of explained to me at the start. It seemed like it was going to be a short term, and maybe they think that maybe the person who told me it wasn't going to be long term thinks that 7 games isn't particularly long term.
Okay.
I don't know. But he's been having he's been dealing with intermittent issues. I think his obviously now that the deadline has passed, his future will be dealt with over the summer, as will Mika's. I think Chris is a lot more straightforward. He has a 15-team no trade list, so he can be traded to 16 teams, and I think they'll probably have a conversation about that. But there should be no drama the rest of the way. Really, the trade deadline's over. They're 1 point out of a playoff spot or whatever they are. So it's only about what happens in these games on the ice now. It takes like every narrative away except from, are you going to, how many points are you getting tonight? How many points are you getting? So I think, Kreider will, be back, and he'll be on the first power play, and, we'll see if he can contribute. I would imagine he'd be on the first power play. I don't know.
I think we've had enough drama for this season alone. I would hope that they're done. Alrighty, that's a good spot for us to stop. Thank you so much for listening. As always, give us a thumbs up down below, comment, let us know. Oh my God, wait.
Wow.
Look at those. Look at the, wow. I don't know. I didn't mean to do that, but for those who were listening and not watching on YouTube, I just incited some fireworks behind me somehow. The
Disney
graphics.
World.
Very cool. Anyway, comment, let us know what you thought about the Rangers trade deadline moves. Did you like it? Wanted more? Let us know what you think. And we'll chat again next week.